The vast emptiness of space was shattered by the thunderous roar of engines as thousands of ships warped into the Andromeda system. The Galactic Federation's Seventh Fleet, an armada of sleek vessels gleaming with advanced technology, took up defensive positions around the habitable planets. Admiral Zixnor, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, stood on the bridge of the flagship, his compound eyes scanning the tactical displays with growing concern. "Status report," he ordered, his voice a series of clicks and whistles. A smaller, green-skinned alien with antennae swiveling nervously responded. "The Void Swarm has consumed 3 more systems in the past solar cycle, Admiral. Our outer defenses are failing." Zixnor's exoskeleton creaked as he clenched his fists. The Void Swarm, a relentless hive-mind species that devoured entire worlds, had appeared from the depths of uncharted space 6 months ago. Since then, they had cut a path of destruction through the galaxy, overwhelming even the most advanced Federation defenses. "We cannot hold them back much longer," Zixnor admitted, his usual confidence wavering. "The Council must have a plan." As if on cue, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the bridge. The image showed the Galactic Council chamber, where representatives from hundreds of species gathered in emergency session. High Counselor Ellorin, an ethereal being of pure energy, spoke first. "Fellow sentients, we faced the gravest threat in our history. The Void Swarm continues to advance, and our forces are unable to stop them." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Ellorin continued, "However, there may be hope. Our deep space explorers have recently made contact with a previously unknown species on a planet called Earth. These humans have shown remarkable potential." The chamber erupted in chaos. "Humans? Those primitives," shouted one counselor. "They've barely left their own solar system." "Precisely," Ellorin replied, her voice cutting through the noise. "But our preliminary studies show they possess a unique combination of traits: adaptability, creativity, and a fierce determination, unlike anything we've seen before." On the bridge of his ship, Admiral Zixnor listened intently. He had heard whispers about these humans, but had dismissed them as insignificant. Now, he wasn't so sure. The Council debated furiously for hours. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, they agreed to extend an invitation to Earth to join the war effort. Zixnor received his new orders with a mix of skepticism and desperate hope. His fleet was to make contact with the humans and bring their representatives to Federation space. As the Seventh Fleet prepared for the long journey to the Sol system, activity on Earth continued as usual. In New York City, Sarah Chen, a brilliant young physicist, was presenting her latest research on theoretical wormhole creation to a packed auditorium. "And so," she concluded, pushing her glasses up her nose, "while we're still years away from practical application, these equations suggest that stable wormholes could be possible with sufficient energy." The audience applauded politely, but Sarah could see the doubt in their eyes. Her theories were considered fringe by most of the scientific community. As she packed up her notes, a tall man in a crisp suit approached her. "Dr. Chen, I'm Agent Davis, United Nations Special Division. We need you to come with us immediately." Sarah's heart raced. "What's this about?" Davis lowered his voice. "First contact, Dr. Chen. We need our best minds, and you're on the list." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Lagos, Nigeria, General Adebayo Okafor was pulled from a strategy meeting. In Moscow, cosmonaut Yulia Petrova was rushed from her training simulator. In Rio de Janeiro, linguist Dr. Joel Silva was escorted from his university office. Within 24 hours, a hastily assembled team of Earth's brightest minds and most capable individuals gathered at a secret facility in Geneva. They sat in stunned silence as they were briefed on the existence of the Galactic Federation and the threat of the Void Swarm. United Nations Secretary-General Amina Khoury addressed the group. "I know this is a lot to take in," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. But we don't have much time. The Federation's fleet will arrive in our solar system in less than a week. They're asking for our help, and the fate of the galaxy may depend on how we respond. General Okafor leaned forward, his eyes sharp. With all due respect, Madam Secretary, how can we possibly help? We're centuries behind their technology. Dr. Silva, the linguist, chimed in. Perhaps that's exactly why they want us. We might see solutions they've overlooked. As the humans debated their role in this cosmic conflict, Admiral Zixnor's fleet dropped out of warp at the edge of the Sol system. The alien ships, each larger than the largest Earth cities, moved cautiously past the gas giants. On Earth, panic erupted as the alien fleet was detected. Governments scrambled to respond, militaries went on high alert, and civilians alternated between fear and excitement at the confirmation that humanity was not alone in the universe. Secretary General Corey, along with the hastily assembled team of Earth's finest, prepared to make humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. They gathered at a specially prepared landing site in neutral Switzerland, surrounded by a mix of diplomats, scientists, and military personnel from around the world. As a sleek shuttle from Zixnor's flagship descended from the sky, humans of all nations held their breath. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The shuttle touched down, and a ramp extended to the ground. Admiral Zixnor, flanked by his aides, emerged. The humans gasped at the sight of the tall, blue, four-armed alien. Secretary General Corey stepped forward, her voice only slightly shaky as she said, "On behalf of the people of Earth, I bid you welcome." Zixnor's translator processed her words, and he responded with a series of clicks and whistles that resolved into English. "We thank you for your welcome, people of Earth. I am Admiral Zixnor of the Galactic Federation. We come seeking your aid in a matter of utmost urgency." As the two leaders began their historic dialogue, Dr. Sarah Chen couldn't tear her eyes away from the alien ship. Her mind raced with the possibilities, the technologies that must be at work to allow such a vessel to traverse the stars. General Okafor studied the alien delegation with a tactical eye, noting their stance, the placement of what appeared to be weapons, always preparing for any eventuality. Dr. Silva listened intently to the untranslated alien speech, his linguist's mind already beginning to decipher patterns and structures in their language. Yulia Petrova, the cosmonaut, felt a mix of excitement and sadness. Her lifelong dream of space exploration had been realized in a way she never expected, but she feared this meant human-led space programs would now be obsolete. As Zixnor explained the threat of the Void Swarm and the Federation's request for human assistance, the Earth team exchanged glances. The idea that their primitive species could offer anything to such an advanced civilization seemed absurd. Yet, the desperation in the alien admiral's voice was clear. Secretary General Corey, sensing the weight of the moment, made a decision that would alter the course of human history forever. "Admiral Zixnor," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "humanity stands ready to aid the Galactic Federation in its time of need. We may be young as a spacefaring species, but we have faced and overcome countless challenges in our history. We will bring that same determination to this fight." Zixnor's alien features were hard to read, but there was no mistaking the relief in his voice. "Your courage honors you," he said. "We must act quickly. Representatives of your species will need to accompany us back to Federation space immediately." As the human team prepared for their unexpected journey to the stars, news of the alien arrival and humanity's new role in a galactic war spread across the Earth. In every nation, on every continent, humans looked to the sky with a mix of fear and anticipation. Humanity was about to make its mark on the galaxy. For better or worse, the universe would never be the same. The Federation battleship Stellar Horizon cut through space at speeds that made Dr. Sarah Chen's head spin. She stood at a massive viewport, watching stars streak by in blurs of light. It had been 2 weeks since the human delegation left Earth, and she still couldn't believe she was traveling faster than light. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice chirped beside her. Sarah turned to see Cyril, a small furry alien that reminded her of a talking hamster. Cyril was the ship's chief engineer and had taken a liking to the curious human scientist. "It's beyond anything I ever imagined," Sarah admitted. "Our fastest ships would take thousands of years to cover the distance we've traveled in days." Cyril's whiskers twitched, and what Sarah had learned was a smile. "Yet your theories on wormhole creation are fascinating. Have you considered applying that to our warp drives?" Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and alien crew members rushed to their stations. Over the intercom, Admiral Zixnor's voice boomed. "All hands, battle stations. Void swarm vessels detected." Sarah's heart raced as Cyril scurried away. She made her way to the bridge, where she and the other humans had been granted observer status. General Okafor was already there, his eyes glued to the tactical displays. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, joining him. Okafor's face was grim. "Seems we're about to see these void swarm creatures up close." On the main view screen, a swarm of dark, organic-looking ships appeared. They moved with an unsettling synchronization, like a school of predatory fish. Admiral Zixnor barked orders in his clicking language as the Federation ships formed a defensive pattern. Energy weapons flared to life, filling space with dazzling beams of light. The Void Swarm ships took heavy damage, but kept coming. Where one was destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. Sarah watched in horror as one Federation ship was overwhelmed, its hull breached by smaller swarm vessels that seemed to be eating the ship from the inside out. "Their tactics make no sense," General Okafor muttered, his military mind trying to decipher the swarm's strategy. "They're taking unnecessary losses." Dr. Joao Silva, who had been quietly observing the alien communications, suddenly spoke up. "It's because they're not individuals. Listen to the intership chatter. The swarm acts as a single organism. They don't care about losses as long as the whole survives." Admiral Zixnor overheard this and turned his compound eyes to the humans. "You're right," he clicked. "That's why we've struggled against them. Our tactics assume an enemy that values self-preservation." As the battle raged on, the Federation fleet found itself slowly surrounded. Ships fell one by one to the relentless swarm. In the chaos, Yulia Petrova, the Russian cosmonaut, noticed something odd. "Look there," she pointed to a section of the tactical display. "The swarm's formation is weaker on the ventral side, almost like a soft underbelly." General Okafor finished, his eyes lighting up. "Admiral, if we concentrate our firepower there, we might be able to punch through." Zixnor hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "It's worth a try. All ships, focus fire on coordinates Delta 9. The remaining Federation ships reoriented, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons and missiles at the designated spot. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, a gap appeared in the swarm's formation. "Now's our chance," Okafor shouted. "We need to get a ship in there." But the Federation captains hesitated, unwilling to risk flying into the heart of the enemy fleet. In that moment of indecision, the gap began to close. "Screw this," Yulia muttered. She sprinted from the bridge, leaving the others bewildered. Seconds later, her voice came over the intercom. "This is Petrova. I've boarded one of your fighter craft, requesting permission to engage." "Absolutely not," Zixnor clicked furiously. "You have no training on our systems." "No time to argue," Yulia replied. Before anyone could stop her, she launched the fighter directly into the gap in the swarm's defenses. What followed was a display of piloting that left even the veteran alien crews in awe. Yulia weaved through the chaos of battle, her fighter dancing between swarm ships and debris. Years of training in experimental aircraft served her well as she pushed the alien craft to its limits. "I'm inside their formation," she reported, her voice tense but controlled. "There's something here, a central node. It's controlling the smaller ships." Dr. Chen's mind raced. It must be like a queen in a bee colony. Yulia, if you can take it out, it might disrupt the entire swarm. Easier said than done. Yulia grunted as she dodged enemy fire. This thing's got more defenses than the Kremlin. That's when Dr. Silva had an idea. Wait, Yulia, switch your comms to this frequency. He rattled off a series of numbers. Now broadcast this sound pattern. He hummed a complex series of tones. What are you doing? Admiral Zixnor demanded. Silva grinned. I've been analyzing the swarm's communications. This should scramble their signals, at least temporarily. Yulia did as instructed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the swarm ships around her seemed to spasm, their movements becoming erratic. It's working, Yulia shouted. The node is exposed. With a series of precisely aimed shots, Yulia's fighter struck the central node. It exploded in a burst of organic matter and energy. Immediately, the swarm ships in the area went limp, drifting aimlessly in space. All ships, fire at will. Zixnor ordered. The Federation fleet unleashed everything they had, tearing through the now uncoordinated swarm. In minutes, it was over. The remaining swarm ships fled, jumping to faster-than-light speeds in a retreat. As Yulia's fighter limped back to the stellar horizon, the bridge erupted in cheers. Aliens and humans alike celebrated their unlikely victory. Admiral Zixnor approached the human team, his alien features arranged in what they had learned was an expression of respect. In all my years, he clicked, I've never seen anything like that. Your unorthodox methods may have turned the tide of this war. Over the next few days, as the Federation fleet made repairs and prepared to continue their journey, word of the humans' contribution spread. The story grew with each retelling, how the primitive Earthlings had succeeded where advanced alien civilizations had failed. Other species began to look at the humans with a mix of awe and unease. They whispered among themselves about the humans' quick thinking, their willingness to take risks, and their ability to improvise in the heat of battle. In a private meeting, a group of alien captains voiced their concerns to Admiral Zixnor. These humans are unpredictable, one insisted. Did you see how they disregarded chain of command? How they risked everything on unproven theories? And that's precisely why we need them, Zixnor replied. The Void Swarm is unlike any enemy we faced. We need the humans' unique perspective. As the fleet prepared to depart, Dr. Chen found herself working alongside Searle and other alien engineers. They peppered her with questions about human science and technology, eager to understand how a species so primitive could have insights their advanced civilizations had missed. General Okafor spent hours in tactical meetings, sharing human military history and strategies. The aliens were particularly fascinated by guerrilla warfare and asymmetric conflict. Dr. Silva worked tirelessly to improve the translation matrices, determined to bridge the communication gap between species. He found himself becoming an impromptu diplomat, smoothing over cultural misunderstandings between humans and aliens. And Yulia. She became something of a legend among the fighter pilots. Alien crews requested her as an instructor, eager to learn the daring maneuvers that had turned the tide of battle. As the stellar horizon jumped to warp speed, heading deeper into Federation space, the humans felt a mix of pride and trepidation. They had proven their worth, but the real challenges were yet to come. The Void Swarm was still out there, and humanity was now on the front lines of a war that spanned the galaxy. Little did they know, their actions had set in motion events that would change the face of galactic civilization forever. The Galactic Federation's central command hub on planet Nexus was a hive of activity. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data from across the galaxy, while aliens of various species rushed about, coordinating the war effort against the Void Swarm. In the heart of this controlled chaos stood the human team from Earth, now joined by additional specialists brought in from their home planet. They had spent the last month integrating into the Federation's military structure, sharing knowledge, and preparing for the battles to come. General Okafor stood before a massive star map, his brow furrowed in concentration. Red markers showed the Void Swarm's relentless advance, while blue indicators represented the dwindling Federation forces. "We can't keep fighting like this," he muttered, shaking his head. "We're spread too thin." Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been poring over Void Swarm biological data, looked up from her workstation. "What if we don't have to fight them everywhere?" she asked, an idea forming in her mind. Okafor raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Sarah pulled up a holographic model of a Void Swarm ship. "We know they operate like a hive mind, right? What if we could disrupt their entire network at once?" As they discussed the possibility, Admiral Zixnor approached, accompanied by a tall, willowy alien with shimmering, translucent skin. "Humans," Zixnor clicked. "Allow me to introduce High Counselor Ellerin of the Galactic Federation." The humans straightened, aware they were in the presence of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Ellerin's voice was like wind chimes as she spoke. "Your species continues to impress us. We've called this meeting to hear your latest strategy." Over the next hour, the human team laid out their plan. It was audacious, risky, and unlike anything the Federation had considered before. They called it the Sydney Maneuver, named after the Australian city where the idea had first been conceived by Earth's think tanks. "We create a trap," Okafor explained, pointing to a specific sector on the star map, a target too tempting for the swarm to resist. Dr. Silva, the linguist, chimed in. "We'll use the communication patterns we've decrypted to send false information, making them think we've discovered a way to destroy them utterly." Meanwhile, Sarah continued, "We position our fleet here, here, and here." She marked 3 points forming a triangle around the trap area. Each group will be equipped with a device we're calling a Nexus Disruptor. Yulia Petrova, who had been working with Federation engineers, explained the device. It creates a localized field that mimics the swarm's own communication signals, but amplified and scrambled. When activated simultaneously, it should create a cascade effect, completely disorienting the swarm's hive mind. The alien leaders listened with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "And you believe this will work?" Ellerin asked. "Honestly, we're not sure," Okafor admitted, "but it's the best shot we've got." After hours of debate and refinement, the plan was approved. The next weeks were a flurry of activity as the Federation rallied its forces and prepared for what could be the decisive battle of the war. The human team worked around the clock. Sarah and alien scientists fine-tuned the Nexus disruptors. Okafor and Yulia trained Federation pilots in the complex maneuvers required. Silva coordinated with intelligence teams to plant the false information. Finally, the day arrived. The Federation fleet, a vast armada of ships from dozens of alien races, gathered at the designated rally points. Tension was high as everyone knew the stakes. This could be their last stand against the Void Swarm. On the bridge of the flagship, now renamed Terra Nova in honor of the human contribution, the Earth team stood alongside Admiral Zixnor and other high-ranking Federation officials. Swarm fleet detected. An alien officer reported. "They're taking the bait." Okafor nodded grimly. "Right into our trap. All ships assume attack positions." The space around them erupted into chaos as the Void Swarm arrived in force. It was a terrifying sight. Countless organic ships moving as one, their dark forms blotting out the stars. "My God," Sarah whispered. "There's so many of them." For a moment, doubt crept into everyone's minds. How could they possibly defeat such a force? But there was no time for second thoughts. Okafor's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Execute Sydney Maneuver." The Federation ships sprang into action, forming the pre-planned formation around the swarm. Yulia, piloting a specially modified fighter, led a squad of alien pilots in a daring run to plant the central Nexus disruptor. "We're taking heavy fire," Yulia shouted over the comms. "Shields at 30%. Silva, monitoring the swarm's communications, suddenly perked up. "They're confused. They can sense something's wrong, but can't figure out what. Now, Okafor ordered, "Activate the disruptors." Sarah held her breath as she initiated the device. For a terrifying moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, all at once, the Void Swarm ships began to spasm and twist in space. "It's working," someone shouted. The effect spread like a wave through the swarm fleet. Ships crashed into each other. Their coordinated movements turned into chaos. Some simply went dark, drifting lifelessly in space. "All ships, open fire," Admiral Zixnor commanded. The Federation fleet unleashed a barrage unlike anything seen before in galactic history. Weapons of a dozen different alien technologies rained destruction upon the disoriented swarm. But the Void Swarm, even in disarray, was far from helpless. They began to adapt, forming smaller independent clusters that could function without the main hive mind. "They're reorganizing," Okafor warned. "We need to press our advantage now." What followed was a battle that would be remembered for centuries to come. Federation ships darted between flailing swarm vessels, striking with surgical precision. Yulia led squad after squad on daring attack runs, taking out key swarm command ships. Hour after grueling hour, the battle raged on. The Federation took heavy losses, but for the first time, they were giving better than they got. As the conflict reached its peak, Sarah noticed something on her screens. The swarm's central node. It's exposed. This was the chance they had been waiting for, but the node was surrounded by a dense cluster of swarm ships, even now fiercely defending their core. "We'll never get a ship through that," Zixnor clicked grimly. Okafor's eyes narrowed. "We don't need to." He turned to Sarah. "Doc, you still have that wormhole theory of yours." Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. "It's never been tested. The power requirements alone." "Can the ship handle it?" Okafor asked Zixnor. The alien admiral paused, then nodded. "If we divert all power, including life support, yes, but we'd have only one shot." "That's all we need," Okafor said firmly. The next few minutes were a frenzy of activity. Sarah and the alien engineers worked frantically to modify the ship's main cannon, turning it into an ad hoc wormhole generator. The rest of the crew prepared for the power diversion, knowing they have only minutes of air once the systems went offline. "Ready," Sarah reported, her voice tense. Okafor took a deep breath. "Fire." A blinding beam of energy shot forth from the Terra Nova. For a moment, space itself seemed to warp and twist. Then, with a silent flash, a small wormhole opened directly next to the swarm's central node. The vacuum of space did the rest, tearing the node apart and sucking it into the temporary wormhole. In an instant, it was gone, transported thousands of light years away. The effect on the swarm was immediate and devastating. Without their central intelligence, the entire fleet fell into disarray. Some ships simply shut down, while others flew off in random directions. As life support came back online, and the crew of the Terra Nova caught their breath, they watched in awe as the once mighty swarm disintegrated before their eyes. Cheers erupted across the Federation fleet. Aliens and humans alike celebrated their impossible victory. The Sydney maneuver had worked, and the tide of the war had finally turned. But as the euphoria of victory washed over them, the human team exchanged knowing glances. They had unleashed power beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. The consequences of this day would echo across the stars for generations to come. The victory over the Void Swarm marked a turning point in the Galactic War, but it was far from the end. In the months that followed, humanity's role in the Galactic Federation grew exponentially. Earth's unique approach to problem-solving, combined with their adaptability and tenacity, made humans invaluable assets in the ongoing conflict. On the war-torn planet of Nexus VI, General Okafor stood atop a hill, surveying the battlefield below. The once lush world had been turned into a scorched wasteland by Void Swarm attacks. Now it served as a front line in the Federation's push to reclaim lost territory. "Incoming transmission from Earth, sir," his alien aide reported. Okafor nodded, activating his holographic communicator. The image of UN Secretary-General Amina Corey flickered to life. "General, I hope this message finds you well," Corey said, her face etched with concern. "The Security Council has approved your request. Project Prometheus is a go." Okafor's expression hardened. "Thank you, Madam Secretary. I know this wasn't an easy decision." As the transmission ended, Dr. Sarah Chen approached, her usual lab coat replaced by combat armor. "Was that about the planet killer?" she asked, her voice low. Okafor nodded grimly. "Humanity's next contribution to this war. God help us all." Elsewhere in the galaxy, on the Federation's premier research station, Horizon, Dr. Joao Silva worked tirelessly with a team of alien linguists and computer scientists. Holograms of void swarm communication patterns floated around them. "If we can just crack this last layer of encryption," Silva muttered, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, "we might be able to predict their movements before they happen." An alarm blared, startling the team. "Void swarm attack on Sector 9. A voice announced over the intercom. "All non-essential personnel to evacuation pods." Silva shared a determined look with his alien colleagues. "We're not leaving. This might be our best chance to gather live data." As chaos erupted around them, the team worked feverishly, their fingers flying over holographic interfaces as they attempted to decipher the swarm's battle communications in real time. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Yulia Petrova led a squadron of Federation fighters on a daring raid. Their target, a void swarm hatchery where new ships were being grown. "Remember the plan," Yulia's voice crackled over the comms. "We go in fast, drop the bioweapon, and get out. No heroics." Her squad acknowledged, their ships moving in perfect formation. As they approached the massive organic structure of the hatchery, void swarm defenders swarmed towards them. "Evasive maneuvers," Yulia shouted, her fighter rolling and weaving through a barrage of energy blasts. The battle was intense but brief. Yulia's team, trained in her unorthodox tactics, ran circles around the swarm ships. In a matter of minutes, they had cleared a path to their target. "Deploying payload," Yulia reported, her finger hovering over the launch button. She hesitated for a split second, the weight of what they were about to do hitting her. Then she pressed it. A small missile shot from her ship, striking the hatchery. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the organic structure began to wither and die, the bioweapon designed by Federation scientists doing its grim work. As Yulia's team made their escape, she couldn't help but feel a mix of triumph and unease. The weapon had worked perfectly, perhaps too perfectly. Back on Nexus VI, General Okafor oversaw the final preparations for Project Prometheus, a massive device, cobbled together from human ingenuity and alien technology, stood ready. Its purpose: to turn an entire planet into a weapon. "Energy levels are stable," an alien technician reported. "We're ready to begin." Okafor took a deep breath. "Commence firing sequence." The device hummed to life, its power building to unimaginable levels. Suddenly, a beam of pure energy shot from the planet's surface into space, aimed at a distant star system occupied by a major void swarm fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, in a blinding flash visible across half the galaxy, the targeted star went supernova. The shockwave obliterated everything in the system, including the swarm fleet. As cheers erupted around him, Okafor's face remained grim. They had just wielded the power of a god, and the implications terrified him. On the Horizon Research Station, Silva's team had a breakthrough. As void swarm ships attacked the station, they managed to not only decrypt the swarm's communications, but also insert their own commands. "We've done it," Silva shouted over the sound of explosions. "We can control them." With a few keystrokes, he sent a command to the attacking swarm ships. To everyone's amazement, the ships suddenly turned and began attacking each other. As the immediate threat passed, Silva slumped in his chair, exhausted but elated. They had found a way to turn the swarm's greatest strength, its hive mind, into a weapon against it. Word of these victories spread quickly through the Federation. Humanity, once seen as primitive newcomers, was now hailed as saviors. But not everyone was comfortable with the methods being employed. In an emergency session of the Galactic Council, heated debates raged. High Counselor Ellerin struggled to maintain order as representatives from various species voiced their concerns. The humans have gone too far. One counselor shouted, "Planet killers. Mind control. Where does it end?" Another countered, "They're saving us all. Without them, the swarm would have overrun us by now." Admiral Zixnor, now a staunch advocate for humanity, stepped forward. "The humans fight with a ferocity and creativity we've never seen. Yes, their methods are extreme, but so is our enemy." As the debate continued, the human team was summoned to appear before the council. They stood united, Okafor, Chen, Silva, and Petrova. As Ellerin addressed them, "Humans of Earth," she began, her voice carrying a mix of admiration and apprehension. "Your contributions to this war have been invaluable. But we must ask, do you understand the forces you're unleashing?" Dr. Chen stepped forward. "Counselor, with all due respect, we understand better than you might think. Every victory comes at a cost. We're not blind to the ethical implications of our actions." Okafor nodded in agreement. "We do what we must to survive, but we haven't lost sight of who we are. Humanity has faced its own dark chapters, and we carry those lessons with us." Silva added, "Our goal isn't just to win the war, but to build a future worth fighting for. We're committed to using our knowledge responsibly." Yulia, usually quiet in such settings, spoke up. "We've seen the best and worst of what we're capable of. Trust us to know the difference." The council chamber fell silent, the aliens considering the humans' words. Finally, Ellerin spoke. "Your wisdom gives us hope, but know that the galaxy watches your actions closely." As the human team left the council chamber, they knew they walked a razor's edge. Their methods had turned the tide of war, but at what cost? The power they wielded could rebuild the galaxy, or tear it apart. In the days that followed, humanity's influence continued to grow. Federation ships were retrofitted with Earth-inspired weapons. Tactics developed by human generals were adopted across the galaxy. The tide of war had truly turned. But as the Void Swarm retreated, a new concern emerged. Some alien species began to whisper that humanity itself might be the next great threat to galactic peace. The very traits that made humans effective warriors. Their adaptability, their drive, their willingness to push boundaries, now inspired fear in their allies. As the human team prepared for their next mission, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were no longer just fighting the Void Swarm. They were fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy, and for the very soul of their species. The war was entering its final, most dangerous phase, and the greatest challenges, both for humanity and the galaxy at large, were yet to come. The final battle against the Void Swarm loomed on the horizon. After months of pushing back the enemy, using increasingly powerful and controversial methods, the Galactic Federation had cornered the remnants of the swarm in a remote sector of space. On the bridge of the Federation flagship, Unity, a tense meeting was underway. The human team, along with Admiral Zixnor and representatives from various alien species, gathered around a holographic display of the battlefield. General Okafor pointed to a pulsating red dot at the center of the map. "This is it, the swarm's last stronghold. If we take this, we end the war." Dr. Sarah Chen frowned, studying the data scrolling across her tablet. "The concentration of swarm ships is unlike anything we've seen before. They're protecting something big. Whatever it is, we need to destroy it." Yulia Petrova said, her pilot's instincts already plotting attack vectors. Dr. Joao Silva, who had been quietly analyzing swarm communications, suddenly looked up with wide eyes. "Wait, I don't think we should destroy it. I think it's trying to communicate with us." A hush fell over the room. Admiral Zixnor's antenna twitched in surprise. Communicate. The swarm has never shown any interest in diplomacy before. It's not diplomacy, Silva explained, his fingers flying over his console. It's an apology and a plea for help. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled leaders. The Void Swarm, the relentless enemy that had devoured worlds and killed billions, was apologizing. It seemed impossible. As Silva worked to decrypt more of the message, the others debated furiously about how to proceed. Some, like Yulia, argued for pressing the attack while they had the advantage. Others, including Dr. Chen, advocated for caution and further investigation. General Okafor listened to all sides before making his decision. We didn't come this far to pass up a chance at peace. Dr. Silva, can you establish two-way communication? Silva nodded, though he looked uncertain. I think so, but it'll take time. And we'll need to get closer. Then that's what we'll do, Okafor said firmly. He turned to Admiral Zixnor. Can we move the fleet into position without appearing hostile? The alien admiral clicked thoughtfully. It's risky, but possible. I'll give the orders. As the massive Federation fleet began its careful approach to the swarm stronghold, tension on the Unity's bridge was palpable. Everyone knew they were either on the brink of a historic peace or walking into a deadly trap. Hours passed as Silva worked tirelessly to establish communication. Finally, with a triumphant shout, he announced, "We're connected." The main view screen flickered to life, showing not an image, but a swirling pattern of colors and shapes. A deep, resonant voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language no one understood. But as Silva's translation software kicked in, words began to form. We regret. We did not understand. We were lost. The assembled leaders exchanged bewildered glances. Okafor stepped forward. This is General Okafor of Earth, representing the Galactic Federation. Who are we speaking with? The swirling patterns shifted. Were creators. Long ago, made swarm to explore, to learn. Something went wrong. Dr. Chen's scientific curiosity overrode her caution. You created the Void Swarm? As some kind of exploration tool? Yes. Swarm was to gather knowledge, to grow, to return. But connection lost, purpose forgotten, became consume, only consume. The implications were staggering. The terrible force that had terrorized the galaxy was never meant to be a weapon at all, but a tragically malfunctioning scientific instrument. Admiral Zixnor, ever the pragmatist, asked the crucial question. Can you stop the swarm? End this war? There was a long pause. The swirling patterns on the screen became agitated. Trying. For so long. Need help. Your weapons, your tactics, awakened us, reminded us. But control? Difficult. Swarm resists. As the conversation continued, a plan began to form. The creators, ancient beings of incredible technological advancement, had the knowledge to shut down the swarm. But they lacked the means to implement it across the vast network they had unknowingly created. This was where humanity's innovations came in. Dr. Chen proposed using a modified version of their planet killer technology to broadcast a shutdown signal across the entire swarm network. Silva's breakthroughs in swarm communication would allow them to piggyback on the hive mind's own transmissions. But there was a catch. To generate a signal strong enough, they would need to be at the very heart of the swarm's stronghold. It was a suicide mission. I'll go, Yulia volunteered immediately. My fighter can get through their defenses. Okafor shook his head. Not alone, you won't. I'm coming with you. One by one, the human team volunteered. They had started this journey together, and they would end it the same way. As preparations for the final mission got underway, a somber mood fell over the Unity. The human team, once seen as reckless upstarts, were now viewed with a mixture of awe and sadness by their alien comrades. They were heroes willingly sacrificing themselves to save the galaxy. In the hangar bay, as they prepared to board Yulia's specially modified fighter, the team shared a moment of reflection. "Quite a ride, huh?" Yulia said with a wry smile. "From first contact to saving the galaxy in one crazy year." Silva nodded, clutching a data drive containing the shutdown signal. "Let's just hope this works. I'd hate to have come all this way for nothing." "It'll work," Dr. Chen said firmly. "It has to." General Okafor looked at each of them in turn. "Whatever happens, it's been an honor serving with you all. We've made humanity proud." With final salutes exchanged, the team boarded the fighter. As the hangar bay doors opened to the star-filled void, Admiral Zixner's voice came over the comms. "Good luck, humans. The galaxy owes you a debt we can never repay." Yulia's fighter shot out of the hangar, streaking towards the massive organic structure at the center of the swarm fleet. As they approached, swarm ships moved to intercept them, but something strange happened. Many of the ships seemed to hesitate, as if confused by conflicting orders. The creators, Silva realized. They're trying to help us. Even so, the flight was harrowing. Yulia's piloting skills were pushed to their limits as she weaved through debris and enemy fire. Explosions rocked the small craft, alarms blaring warnings of failing systems. Finally, they reached the central structure. As Yulia maneuvered them into position, the rest of the team worked feverishly to set up the broadcast equipment. "Ready," Chen shouted over the din of battle. Okafor looked at each of his comrades one last time. "For Earth. For the galaxy. Do it." Silva activated the signal. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a wave of energy pulsed out from their ship, visible as a ripple in space. All around them, swarm ships began to go dark. The massive organic structures started to break apart. The void swarm, terror of the galaxy, was ending not with a bang, but with a whimper. As their fighter drifted, its power depleted by the enormous energy surge, the human team watched in awe as the swarm disintegrated around them. They had done it. The war was over. Rescue ships from the Federation fleet soon arrived, bringing the heroes back to a thunderous welcome. The celebrations that followed would be remembered for generations. In the aftermath, as the galaxy began the long process of rebuilding, humanity found itself in a unique position. Their ingenuity and bravery had saved countless lives, but the power they had displayed also inspired fear. The Galactic Council, in a historic session, made a momentous decision. Humanity would be granted full membership in the Federation, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. But there was a condition. Humans would be barred from participating in any future galactic conflicts. As General Okafor and his team stood before the Council to hear this decree, they exchanged knowing glances. They understood the reasoning behind the decision. Humanity had shown what it was capable of when pushed to the brink. It was a power that could save civilizations or destroy them. The war was over, but humanity's greatest challenge was just beginning, proving they could be trusted with the incredible potential they had unleashed among the stars. As the human team prepared to return to Earth, now hailed as both saviors and potential threats, they knew their adventures in the galaxy were far from over. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now beckoned with endless possibilities. The void swarm was defeated, but humanity's story among the stars was just beginning.